course, has Dead Aim. What's coming out on him now? I'll have another coming home gamely down the centre. I'll have another Creative Scores on the inside. Blue Skies and Rainbows, a three-way thriller. I'll have another Creative Cause. I'll have another Zen Front Creative Cause. They hit it together. I'll have another. And Mario Gutierrez have won the Santa Anita Derby. Creative Cause and nose back second.
Hard to believe it's been 10 years since I'll Have Another took down the Santa Anita Derby en route to a Kentucky Derby and Preakness victory back in 2012. I don't think a prep has been more productive for the Kentucky Derby than the Santa Anita Derby. Joining me, Nick Tammaro, is going to be Scott Shapiro to talk about it. Scott, Santa Anita Derby's been where it's at for the most part.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Nick. From years in and years out, different trainers have won the race. It's been extremely productive for the Triple Crown. And as you mentioned, the Kentucky Derby. And we don't have a very deep field this year, but I think the horse that comes out of here, and maybe two of them, will be amongst those given serious consideration when we get to the first Saturday in May.
I agree. And while it definitely lacks depth, I think that potentially one of two or both of the main players in this race could have the biggest impact on the race. They might not win, but given their respective running styles, they're going to certainly make their presence known in a few weeks on the first Saturday in May. Let's get started by looking at your top pick, Messier, who comes in off a short layoff, having last won the Bob Lewis here at Santa Anita in early February. Tell us about Messier.
Yeah, hard to knock this horse. 3 for 5 in his career with 2 seconds. He lost the race to Slow Down Andy at Los Alamitos. But to me, what happens at Los Alamitos sometimes stays there. He still ran respectably, but it wasn't his best game. We saw his best game in the Bob Lewis in the grade 3 on February 6th, as you mentioned, and now he returns. And while he has done his best running on the front end, he doesn't seem like a horse that needs the lead. I think he can settle just off the pace, and he'll probably need to be at his best here, Nick, with the likes of Forbidden Kingdom and some others that have some early speed. But I think he drew well in this spot. I think he's a serious Derby contender. It'll be interesting to see how he runs off of, a 2-month layoff, not the norm here, but entering the new barn, a lot's going on in this spot for him, but he looks like one of the major players for the Kentucky Derby, and I think he'll get the job done here.
Unquestionably, the likely slight favorite, I would say. I believe even money on John White's morning line will be Messier. Forbidden Kingdom, one door to the inside, is a horse who I had pretty serious reservations with him going into the San Felipe, just how far he wanted to go. Speed kills at any distance. We found that out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He went fast early and just speed burnt. Pretty underwhelming field in the end, and probably going into the two horses coming out of that race also in here, Happy Jack and Argonac. Pretty hopeless. Doppelganger, who ran second, came back to perform pretty poorly in Hot Springs, Arkansas last week. So he didn't beat much. He speed burned him. I still have concerns. He was one of the favorites in the last Kentucky Derby future pool wager. I took chances against him in there with the My Racehorse connection. No disrespect to them, but always going to take a little more money than maybe he should with all of those that are involved in that backing their horse, which is cool. But for me, I'm going to once again take a chance that Forbidden Kingdom will take a little more heat up front and a little struggle maybe to get that 9 panels. How about you?
I think what's common about the rivals that were behind Forbidden Kingdom last time out that were second and third is that I think they're both sprinters. I think Doppelganger will benefit from a cutback, and I think Happy Jack will as well, based on what we've seen in his 2 starts going long and his debut, where he was much more effective settling and coming from off the pace. Yeah, I bet against horses like Forbidden Kingdom left and right, especially in this scenario when he's gonna really take the worst of it, I think, pace-wise, because not only does he have Messier to deal with in the first couple of furlongs, we have Taiba on the outside, who's a second-time starter now in the care of Tim Yakteen, a son of Gunrunner, who went for the bargain price of $1.7 million. This was before we knew Gunrunner was going to become sire to the stars. And this horse is an impressive debut winner.
Sure is. And if I was going to try to beat Messier, he would be one of 2 that I would do it with. Thought about picking him, but it's a lot to ask. Stretching out the 2 turns for the first time, taking on winners for the first time, a big step up. But he couldn't have been much more impressive in that 6 furlong debut effort in early March. And the dam, most $1.7 million purchases are out of Ohio breds, right? Need more flattery. A very productive Ohio bred at that, 17 for 39, and a versatile one. 8 wins on the dirt sprinting, 8 wins on the dirt routing, and then a win on the turf. So there's reasons to believe that Taiba could sit a good trip, should like the distance, and is a serious racehorse. But I just don't think the way this race is going to get bet that you're going to get that good of a price given the variables.
too much too soon. I will also note second and third place finishers from his debut both came back with double-digit decreases in speed figures of just about any type. I'm going to go one door to the inside for my pick, number 5, Win the Day. I'm a little bit of a smart aleck when it comes to these types. If it looks like there's this much speed on paper, give me a horse who can make up ground. Generally, I've shied away from these types that debuted on the turf and didn't get to the dirt until later in their careers, but perhaps this was a situation where it had to do with distance, or I don't know exactly what. Nonetheless, when he did finally make it to the dirt, he ran against two horses that were both even money, and he ran by them very easily. He got a big pace set up that day. He figures to get a very big pace set up here. You mentioned before we came on that you thought your interesting opinion was maybe sliding him into second, and that might be his ceiling. I'm willing to admit that. But this is a horse that I have to throw a few dollars on, hoping that there's a little bit of chaos in front of him, and maybe he'll be in line to pick up the pieces.
He's certainly the known one that can run on at 2 turns and sit and relax nicely. And, an interesting point about the turf early on in the career, Doug O'Neill, a lot of respect for him. He's won a lot of big races, including Kentucky Derbies and Santa Anita Derbies, as we talked about with I'll Have Another, for example. But sometimes he moves horses around pretty quickly and kind of takes chances, doesn't necessarily have things as mapped out as some of the other top trainers in the game. So I wouldn't let that bother me too much. Visually, I thought he was very impressive in that effort. He earned an 89 Brisnet speed rating on the Brisnet scale and won easily that day. Obviously a major step up in class, but if you're looking for, a bomb type in this race, he certainly is the one that makes the most sense to me compared to the 2 inside horses that we talked about coming out of the San Felipe.
That was exactly my thought. I'd rather have him at 12 or 15 to 1 than anybody at, either of the 2 favorites at sub 3 to 2. It will be an interesting running of this race, undoubtedly, because we're going to be dealing with horses coming out of it that should have a major impact on the pace scenario. Scott, good luck with Messier.
Thank you. I won't be diving in too head first at the likely 4 to 5 price, but I'm actually very much interested in just watching this race. I'll be putting a few dollars, of course, on my TwinSpires account, but just seeing how Messier and Forbidden Kingdom run and even Taiba, because like you said, they're going to have a major impact if they get into the Kentucky Derby. They're front runners. There's already other front runners that are locked into spots. So I'm hoping that they run well because I want to see another chaotic Derby pace after some modest ones over the last couple of years.
It probably has been almost since I'll Have Another won the Derby that we've seen a pace with really that kind of early fervor, hoping for that as well. This is the Santa Anita Derby, which will take place tomorrow. Good fan opportunity, good wagering opportunity, of course, at TwinSpires.com. For Scott Shapiro, Nick Tammaro here, wishing you best of luck.